Good Shabbos, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. I apologize for starting a little late. It's just so wonderful to see people here in person. I mean, it's amazing. So if you're watching at home or watching later on in the week, this coming Friday, a week from tonight, we have a video. I'm going to be out of town spending some time with Floyd. After next Friday night, every Friday night between now and Rosh Hashanah, we'll be here. So the 30th of July, every Friday night in August, and then, of course, Labor Day evening is Erev Rosh Hashanah. If anybody wants to write my sermons, that would be great, since the holidays are so early. But come in and be with us if you can. It's really wonderful to see people. So let's begin, as we always do, with a cleansing breath. Let's take a nice deep breath and thank God that we're alive and here or wherever you are. And let's turn to page 121 to welcome Shabbat by lighting our Shabbat candles. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Our Shabbat Kiddush is on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit Ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Let's continue together at the top of page 124. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Lecha Dodi is on page 138. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. 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 Shahamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'bzola, Toch emuneh am segula, Boi kala. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kahala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. We continue with a psalm on page 140. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. With a 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together, you have gladdened me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai, how very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. The righteous bloom like a date palm, they thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong. Let's turn to page 264 and rise for Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmarotehem barakia kirtsono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tsevaot shemo. El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Page 266. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth. In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. The Shema, page 267. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta, page 268. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meyodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam beshiftecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha Uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 269. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? When we grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learned God's presence redeems time and event, so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom. Yam bam 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 bibi bam ya ba 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 bim bam yam bam 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 bibi bam ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha ne'edar bakod Norat hilot osefel, Norat hilot osefel, Yam bam 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 bibi bam ya ba 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 bim bam, Yam bam 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 bibi bam ya ba 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 bim bam, ay 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 ya ba 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 bim bam, ay 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 ya ba ba. Bim bam. Let's pray together on page 271. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru, page 272. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, ledorotam berit olam. Beni uven b'nei Yisrael, Oti leolam, oti leolam. olam v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Let's rise now, please. Turn to page 273 for Tefillah. Adonai sepatai kippah ufi agitehi latecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh HaKol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה ברוך אתה אדוני Ha'el HaKadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Please be seated. Let's continue together on page 278. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Page 281. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise. For the desire in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha ne'el lehodot. Shalom Rav, page 282. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon Lachol Hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon Lachol Hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol ed uvachol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Let's pause now for a moment of silent reflection. Aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'emru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. I invite all of us to turn to page 362, and please rise as we continue with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for reading of the Torah. En kamocha be'Elohim Adonai, ve'en kemasecha, malachutecha, malachut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo bikdushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Lechol Adonai Hagedula v'Hagivura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Ha'od, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lechol Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh lechol lerosh. Congregation may be seated. Well, for those who are watching us virtually, yes, we're having a Torah service. It's about time. And for those of you who are here with us in person, we didn't do a hakafa. We'll start doing those soon, I'm sure, but one step at a time. So this Torah portion is the first part of Deuteronomy, which in Hebrew is called Devarim, and Devarim means simply words. And it's the perfect name not only for this parsha, but for the whole book of Deuteronomy, because the entire book of Deuteronomy are simply words recited by Moses on top of Mount Nebo as he is surveying the promised land. He's not allowed to go into the promised land. He knows this. He's looking at the promised land and he's saying to himself, "Oi, what is going to happen to these people who have been making me crazy for the last 40 years? And that's literally what is going through Moses' mind. And our commentators, or maybe you think God wrote the Torah, whatever you believe is great with me. It's really very fitting that when Moses is up on this mountain and his knees start to shake a little bit, that he has this very, very long sermon. It's almost like, I remember when Floyd got his driver's license and he was taking the car for the first time, and instead of just saying, be careful, I said, now look, you have my cell, you have, and I'm giving him this, and he's looking, and he doesn't have a watch, they have phones, whatever. And he's like, enough, Papa, let me go. And I assume that the Israelites who are at the base of Mount Nebo, who are ready to get into the promised land, want Moses to talk quickly. But he has a lot to say. So I'm going to read a little bit about what Moses has to say, because what we'll see at the end of Deuteronomy, when Moses dies, we're told that his eyes did not dim and his strength was not abated, even though he was, they say 120, maybe he was 40, which was really old in those days. He still had a lot of keach in Yiddish or koach in Hebrew. So let's listen to a little bit of what Moses has to say. V'yomer alechem be'et hahi lamelech lo ochal levado sha'etetchem Adonai Elohechem v'hadarav etchem v'hanischem hayom kochavim hashemayim larov. So Moses is saying, I cannot bear the burden of all of you people anymore. He's sort of in his mind, he's saying to himself, I know I'm not going into the promised land, and I can't do all of this work alone, and the Israelites are going to be without me. I have to come up with a plan. And then he says, God has multiplied you as if you are as many as the stars in the sky, which really goes all the way back to Abraham, because when Abraham became the first Jew and circumcised himself, God said to him, your people will be as numerous as the sands in the sea and the stars in the sky. So already we're there. Adonai Elohei avotechem Yosef, alechem kechem 1000 pa'amim, veyivarech etchem ka'asher diber lachem. So here Moses is doing what a lot of Jewish grandmothers and grandfathers do, and that is when they say something out of anger, they want to, put a little sugar on it. So he says, after he says, I can't deal with you and you're too many, he says, but may God bless you and increase your numbers 1,000-fold. Okay, think of Moses up there as a Zaidi. Echa asher levarech techachem umishachem v'yarvechem havu lachem anashim chochamim v'novorim v'yadeim v'yishrechem v'astechem bareschem. That's enough. And Moses says, God has instructed me to pick from each tribe elders and chieftains, and he calls them captains, but captains is sort of like people from the army. And Moses is saying, look, I'm picking people from each tribe, and you are not only going to be working with me, you're going to be working alone, so that when you get to the promised land, you know what you're doing. Okay? I didn't do the blessing before, and I should do the blessing afterward. So forgive me. Let's do the blessing before first, and then we'll do the blessing afterward. Nobody's perfect. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach, Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Say the blessing afterward. First we'll do a mishaberach, which when the Torah scroll is open, we don't sing mishaberach, we believe that the words of the Torah go straight to God, so we want to say the Mishaberach while the scroll is open. Mishaberach, we say Baruch Ata Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. May God praise and heal everyone who is sick in our community, and we say Amen. Now blessing afterward. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. And we say Amen. Let's rise while I prepare the Torah with Vizot HaTorah. Is that okay? Sorry. I know, I'm messing up a little bit here. All right. We'll wait. If you can't find it, we can do something else. V'zot HaTorah Ser HaMoshe Lifnei Yisrael. Thank you. All right, so let's delve into what Moses is doing and how he feels, okay? So let me ask a question. How is it that certain people in our lives take on all the responsibility and then often complain about it, get angry, or even burn themselves out? And why are there so many people in our families or in our careers who may feel left out of the decision-making process because of someone who doesn't listen or feels the need to control everyone else? Think about that. As we hear In the beginning part of Deuteronomy, this long sermon given by Moses, Moses is clearly viewed as a parent, leader, and disciplinarian, the one God chose to direct and protect the Jewish people. It's easy to see how Moses acts out this role of overwhelmed manager in Deuteronomy 1:12 when he says, "How can I bear unaided the trouble of you and the burden and the bickering?" Moses complains about the enormous responsibility God has placed on him to lead a people that continue to grow in number and present more challenges. He sounds just like any other frustrated supervisor or parent overcome by the numerous responsibilities thrust upon them, who finally throws their arms up in the air and asks, "What am I going to do with you? How can I do this on my own?" So Moses doesn't want the enormous job of leading thousands of Jews alone. So he devised a plan, as any good leader must, so that he can keep peace within his family, the Israelites. Moses appoints wise men and captains to oversee the day-to-day problems. He even implements a very carefully constructed outline of how these captains should deal with various situations. And then finally, Moses tells his advisors that if they cannot resolve a dispute, they should bring the disagreement to him. If we look at most large corporate or volunteer structures, there is usually one person who oversees everyone and sometimes feels the frustration of burnout. A good leader delegates others to implement rules and decisions. Moses sets up a similar structure when he chooses elders of the tribe to be surrogates over the Jewish people. A very wise move from a very wise leader. Moses knows he won't be able to set foot in the promised land, so he appoints others to take over the reins. He begins the process of delegating responsibility to others so that the Israelites won't feel lost or abandoned when he dies. Moses commands them to fight, to be strong, to gain security and stability. And Moses follows God's command, for he knows that his people will never survive the hardships of life without courage and fortitude. In closing, sometimes the best gift we can give those we love and those who join in our struggles to make the world a better place is the gift of guidance, the gift of strong leadership, and the gift of stepping back to let others join in the leadership rather than taking on all of the responsibility ourselves. So may we all have a Shabbat filled with joy and peace and learn to live like Moses. Shabbat Shalom. Now let's turn to page 374 and rise as we return the Torah to the Ark. Odo averetz v'shamayim vayorem keren le'amo tehilo lecho chasidov libnei Yisrael am kerovo. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. It's Chaim Hilama Chasikim Ba V'Tom Feha Neushar Derachea Darchenoam V'chol Netivoteha Shalom Ashivenu Adonai Elecha remain standing for Aleinu on page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. Please be seated. We continue on page 592. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. This Shabbat, we remember the recent passing of Bani Strohecker, mother of our member Jill Cusick, and we remember those whose yahrzeits are being observed. Martin S. Abel, Charles Adler, Gordon D. Adler, Gustav J. Beck, Robert D. Brenner, Margaret Friedman, Greta Galea, Joan S. Goldsmith, Oscar Goodman, Caroline Green, Arthur Hess, Lester Hess, Norman Krauss, Annette Lang, Samuel Latt, Bessie Abel Lehrman, Samuel Levinson, Rebecca Levy, Gloria Olwine, Lois Rockmaker, Martha Miller Roth, Nathan Siegel, David Shapiro, Israel Zweig, Matilda Wolf, John Woodard Bryant Jr., Paul Zucker. For those that have been named or for those you may name within your own hearts, we ask the congregation to please rise together as the mourner's Kaddish is recited on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach cheruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalo v'zman kariv v'yimaru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba Mevorach Le'olamo Me'amaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei Kudsha Barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'yalma v'yimaru amen. Yehei Shlomo Rabba min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all of us who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen. Our closing hymn is Ein Kelohenu on page 600. And no, it's not on 631. It's on 626. En Kelohenu כמלכנו, אין כמושיענו, מי כאלוהינו, מי כאדוננו, מי כמלכנו, מי כמושיענו. נודה לאלוהינו, נודה לאדוננו, נודה למלכנו, נודה למושיענו. ברוך אלוהינו, ברוך אדוננו, ברוך מלכנו, ברוך מושיענו. אתה הוא אלוהינו, אתה הוא אדוננו, אתה הוא מלכנו, אתה הוא מושיענו. Now let me take a moment to ask God's blessings on our congregational family. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our mothers and fathers, grant us a Shabbat filled with joy and rest, and a week ahead filled with good health and peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.